button, and yes, I see it flashing. So recording, very good. Very good. We always want a great recording. Record everything you do. And I want to welcome everybody to Tuesday night again. We had a 2-week hiatus there, or we just skipped last Tuesday, so glad to see everybody back. And it's really nice to be here with you because I get really lonely. It's been a really crazy weekend. I'm going to do some hiking Saturday, which would be good because I really kind of need to get outside, but I had a long fair again, and I don't know, just feeling a little bit rough. Been on the road way too long, so it's always nice to get back on Tuesday night where I can see lots of friends and we can talk a little bit. And even though we're not really talking, it's nice that you're here. So tonight we're going to talk about finding targeted prospects for your niche product. And last session we talked about two very important topics, and one was creating a niche product, instead of just a very broad brush product. And of course, we also talked about trying to identify a niche market of people that would identify strictly to that product. So you didn't want to wide brush either one. It's good that you can at least have a niche in one or the other, the product or the market, but generally the tighter it gets, the more money you're going to make and the more success you'll have and the less competition you'll have. Well, obviously that's great because we don't want to do too wide a brush. Don't ever believe, again, I want to reiterate, don't ever believe that the wide brush is attracting more people to you. It's actually just throwing you into a very deep pool of everyone else. And you don't want to be the little fish in a big pond. You really want to make a statement and be the expert in your field. So with that being said, of course, it's easier to do that picking something very specific. And again, you don't have to stick with that particular project. You can do that for a while and move on to something else, but always think of it in terms of narrow and deep marketing with a very narrow topic. And then, of course, I asked people what they wanted to learn about, and it should have been obvious, but Richard, who isn't even here tonight, which I took the whole webinar and kind of made examples just for him, so he's missing out, but I guess he'll watch the recording, but it's applicable to everyone. And what we're going to talk about here is where to find these people. Now, there's a million places to do it, online and offline. And the big thing here is that the things that worked for me may not work for you. So I'm going to talk about, again, with a wide brush, all the different places that you can. And again, if you have a place that I don't mention where you have found your target market and was successful at that, pop it in the chat box and let us know, because sometimes you'll find something very specific in your circle of influence that I may not even know about, So what this stuff basically is, I'm covering all the things that I've done, and I'm not going to talk about each one in detail, but I'm going to talk in detail about the ones that worked for me. So that's really cool to kind of get a bead on that. And I'll give you some examples of kind of what to do and different things, social media. And again, this is the tough one because your market is everywhere and you probably know where they're at, but you don't think about it that much. And then you try to listen to everyone else tell you, you should be milking this and milking that. And it may not work for you, but you got to try a whole bunch of different things and keep testing and experimenting. So, let me hit the PDF here. All right. Yeah. Again, I'm back at Dartmouth College. What the heck is that? Okay, great. Anyway, I'm back at Dartmouth College again, and except, surprise, surprise, summer's over, and I didn't realize that I've been gone. School started, and the place is a freaking madhouse, okay? So it's noisy, crazy. I've never seen anything like it. College kids, they're wild, they're crazy, they're loud. It's ridiculous. So last session, we talked about creating the niche product service. And more importantly, we talked about marketing to a niche target segment of people, because you really want to focus on a message that they're going to resonate with, and look at your product as something that's very specific, almost like you're reading their mind. So in that regard, you got to kind of find where they're hiding at. So we're going to look at where they're lurking, and a lot of different places you can find target market. And just because this is an online class and I'm an internet marketing person, I've actually done more business offline. And that's just good old traditional ways of doing business that haven't changed. So what I'm going to talk about tonight is online and offline and how important they are. So just because we're on the internet here at this class, it doesn't always make it the easiest place to find prospects. In fact, it's almost difficult unless you really know exactly where people are lurking to find people on the internet, because it's such a wide range and so many different people mixed together and so many searches. And then you'll find a forum that you'll say, oh my God, look, that's where all my people are at. And then you find out no one's been posting there for 3 years and everything's outdated, and it can be very difficult. The internet, though, and this is the important part, and this is what internet marketing is sort of partially about, it's the easiest way to deliver your products and services. So you don't have to actually have an office. You don't actually have to have a store or anything. You can deliver everything, information, products, services, training, everything that people find valuable, and deliver it virtually, like a class, products, downloadables, all that stuff. And the internet gives you the reach to deliver worldwide at 24 hours a day. And that's why the internet's so important. But finding your target market can be difficult. So that's why you have to break it into two. So you want to think traditional business when you're looking for customers. And for me, and this may not even be relevant to you, but for me, online and offline is a 50-50 split. Literally, to be honest with you, it's probably leaning more towards offline. I've actually made more money meeting people in person and talking them into training or hiring me than I have just people coming and opting in and list building and whatnot. So your target market is out there. And if you can, shake their hand a little bit, so to speak, or get in front of them and start teaching them, becomes very, very powerful. So here's a case study. And I learned this a long time ago about offline and the importance of it. Working for Tom. And it's funny, though, Tom will stand up at a speech, okay? And I'm not putting him down or anything. This is how everybody does it. He's standing at a speech in front of live people telling you that you can build websites and draw all these people to the internet, and you can sell all these products and make all this money. Meanwhile, he's actually selling the training for that to a live audience, because the internet's a more difficult place to get traction. Obviously, when Tom is standing on stage in front of a whole bunch of people that paid some money to see him, that's a captive audience, and a huge rate of conversion will buy his mentor program, which is expensive. And you guys know that. So when I was working there, I literally, over the 7 years I was there, I must have seen him sign up 600 mentees, around that figure, okay? And I only know and can prove, really, to me, that only 7 of those people out of 600 joined just via coming to the website, never heard of him before, didn't know who Tom was, just read some articles, went through the training site, watched the videos, got interested enough, called us up, said, hey, what's going on? I'd really like to join the mentor program. Yeah, here's my credit card. And I don't really know the man, but I like him, okay? 7 that I can remember. Okay, didn't write it down, but it's pretty close to that. All the others came from his speaking engagements, the Author 101, all the seminars, the boot camps, the butt camps, the live trainings, and a lot of other ones like joint venture partners as well, which is online, really, but he's still speaking to a captive audience that someone promoted him in front of. So it's kind of like a seminar or speaking engagement, just virtually delivered over the online. I kind of consider that in a way offline, but it's just delivered online. So don't be confused about that. And of course, referrals. Obviously, a mentee that enjoyed it is going to refer their friends. And there were a lot of people. Now, how do I know this? Because Tom made me, and you probably were one of these people. He made me call each and every person that ever joined the mentor program. He would come back from Author 101 or these giant marketing seminars with a stack full of papers that people filled out to join the mentor program. He ran the credit cards, and as soon as their payments cleared, he handed the stack to me, and I called each one personally, and I was the first one of the staff to do it, and introduced them myself and to the program, asked them if they have any questions. And I also asked them, how did you hear about us? So this is why I know. I mean, I didn't look at his records where he came from, but I know where everybody came from. We're talking like 99% offline. So you have to consider that. And that's something where some of us have a weakness in that. We're not big public speakers and we're not networkers, but you have to learn to be to really grow this business. Well, let's take a look at online prospect hunting. Okay, there are places to find your target market, and also, just like a niche product and service, you also have to really niche down your searching and try to not do too wide a brush in terms of where you're looking, especially searching Google and whatnot. Obviously, there's Facebook and LinkedIn are two huge places where you can find a lot of people. And they're usually in these groups, okay? Because here's something I've discovered working with social media for so long and why I really don't like it and really it doesn't work as well is because we're not effectively learning how to use it. And I'll show you a great way of kind of figuring that out here. But what we've done is we've just had we have all these friends and these people that like our pages and whatnot. And we're posting stuff and no one's really doing anything. They're not really commenting. The people close to us are making comments, but generally you'll see you might have 600 likes of a page, but then when you post something like a quote or whatever, like people tell you should put a quote, there might only be like 6 or 7 or 10 or 12 at best likes about it. No one's really making a comment. And you wonder, why isn't this working? Well, you got to look, and this is the whole key to social media. You have to look at who are you posting to? Who are these people? Do you even know who they are? Do you really know each and every one of these people and why they came and what they're doing there? And are they even your target market? Sure, there's people that might be interested in all sorts of different aspects of you and your personality and your business or whatever, but are they really that niche prospect? Evidently, they're not. Okay. So just general posting to people who just, build up these friends is weak. What you want to do with Facebook and LinkedIn is go to the groups where your niche market have already decided to join and see if it's a lively group that has a little bit of discussion. And I noticed LinkedIn's far better than Facebook about this. So LinkedIn groups have a lot of activity and there are people looking for specific information. All you have to do is join and start building relationships. I mean, it's no harder than that. You can search, and which is probably the widest brush of all. And you can narrow your search if you're careful and find places where your market is hanging out. Obviously, people opt in from JB promotions and ads and Facebook ads and Kindle books and, all the list building tools that we do. People who opt in obviously is your target market. They're not wasting their time opting in or giving away their email address if they don't like what you have. Okay. So obviously if you have a wide brush, you'll see people not opting in. If you have a more narrow niche, like we talked about 2 weeks ago, and people opt in to get that information, then you know that target is very hot with that very specific amount of information. So your autoresponders and the way you contact them and call them have to be very specific. So I've also used Craigslist to drive people to me because it's it's got keywords and they come up in Google searches. Online forums are good, but you have to really look for the lively ones. There's really huge ones, and then there's like 10% are very active and a great place to find prospects, and 90% of these ones are kind of outdated, and you'll see like the last post was in 2013 or whatever. So be careful of that. Online magazines, trade journals, obviously your target market subscribes to certain periodicals which are online or even offline. And obviously you can do guest blogging and editorials and articles. And what I mean by that is that when you see a site or something, your competition, so to speak, if you see your competition and they already are writing about this kind of stuff, well, that's the perfect opportunity to write a very niche focused topic, an editorial or an article or a blog post to submit to that person. We've always talked about guest blogging and how important it is. Well, it's more important if you can identify a site or a forum or someplace or a blog where your people are there, where they're subscribed to it. And you can usually look at the comments to see whether it's fairly lively or popular, and start becoming a person who puts out niche material in your market, to your market. And this keeps you from having to worry about whether you're getting website traffic or not. Again, you have to go where the traffic is and stand in front of it. And way to do that is content marketing, which is always good. Let's look at offline prospect hunting models. Now, obviously, speaking, presentations, and seminars are the biggest. And people don't come to seminars to hear a topic they're not interested in. I mean, they really don't. So automatically, if you ever get invited to speak, if you can just get 30 minutes somewhere to speak somewhere, you start looking for those opportunities. And remember, there's ways to milk that without getting paid for it. So a lot of people like the free speakers. They're not going to pay you if you're not experienced or part of a bureau normally or have an agent. So basically use that just to collect business cards or whatever, or just contact information, or just to spread the word. Actually, when you speak and do seminars, after the presentation's over, people will come to you. There's always that back of the room. There's always that in between speeches where people are kind of networking, and that's great. Meetup.com is huge, and I'm going to show you how I've used all these different things. Churches, community centers, libraries, universities, posting on bulletin boards. I mean, your market is in a lot of different places depending on what you have. Now, I focused on a lot of stuff with Richard's business, which is he has the English as a second language classes. So he's out in Southern California, and he's an English teacher. So he's got a little school. It's a physical school, and people come to him, and he doesn't have as many students as he'd like. And we've talked privately about, finding the community centers and just word of mouth and doing referrals from all his past students, because each student has an aunt and uncle and grandparent and all this that don't understand the language either, and all that can be referrals, which are another big thing. So not all of this is going to be applicable to what you're doing, but I just wanted to, again, wide brush it, and I'll show you what I've done, in my own business. Referrals are huge. I mean, everyone's got somebody they've worked with in the past, unless you're starting out brand new with your niche, and some of us are. Just recall, well, that's perfect. Just remember that to get referrals ahead of the process. So I don't even wait, for the project to be done. I start getting referrals early. So also partnerships with other experts. I'll explain that in just a minute. Well, let me explain it right now. This is literally going to another expert, and I've done this, where I have asked the expert, hey, I mean, are you swamped? Is there anything that you would like, you want to pass along or anything like that? Do you have any extra people that you're not being able to serve properly? I can take some weight off your shoulders, and you can throw a few people at me. And I'll get to this in just a minute. Actually, I went into more detail about that further into the program here. And of course, magazines and newspapers, all this stuff. If you do a mix of it, you'll find, and it takes a while to do it, but you'll find the places where what's working, and then you can focus on just, 3 or 4 of these things. Social media. All right. Well, Richard, suggested the topic, so I kind of revolved around this, and I gave him, showed some examples here. Here's an English as a second language group. And I don't know exactly, you got to kind of go in, and I don't know if these are teachers or whether they're people that want to learn English as a second language, but there's 44,000 people in this group in LinkedIn, and it's very active. And there's actually used to be a statistics button for LinkedIn groups, and it's not there anymore. But you used to be able to see what kind of people were there, whether they were students, whether they're SEOs, based on the information in their profile, which is very cool. But of course, LinkedIn took that down. But anyway, you can go through the members and kind of see who they are. Now, does it matter to Richard or not whether they're teachers or students? Well, no, because if they're students, then he can attract people to his school. If they don't live in Southern California near his school, we've been putting together some way to do online, and Richard and Sheila went through Zoom so he could do online classes. Great. But the more powerful niche that we've been talking about, Richard and I, is actually training teachers to build their business. So in that regard, he becomes a mentor to other ESL teachers like himself about building an online class or, creating their first physical school and whatever he's an expert in. And instead of just teaching students, he wants to mentor other teachers and go to these conferences and speak. Perfect. Well, out of this 44,000, it's got to be a mix. So I would, besides people who never look at the group information, there's a lot of people in there. So think about how many you really need to pool to make money. Okay. Here's another Facebook group. This guy is exactly what we were talking about with Richard. This guy teaches teachers how to start an online class, use the material, create the material, start up the webinars, whatever it is. He's got 3,500 people, and those are all teachers. So there's a way to milk this kind of stuff into your target niche if you just drive down deep enough. So I've been obviously been working with Michelle for a long time, my friend and colleague Michelle, and she developed this really cool thing she's doing, and it sounded like everything everybody else is kind of doing or what you've heard or read about, but it's a little different. Well, it's not that different, but it's working, so I'm just going to go with that. Okay, so she is actually created an event on Facebook. So her website's not even up yet. So she creates the event on Facebook. The event can be anything. It can be a teleclass, a webinar, an opt-in. It can drive someone to a landing page. It can do whatever you want with an event. So, and then she joined all these targeted groups, which were coaches and consultants. So Michelle's the one with teaching the group coaching to coaches and consultants, the group coaching models. So she's trying to go where the coaches are hanging out, where they're talking about business, where they're doing whatever they do. So she joined all these groups. Then she went in and to the members and friended them. And obviously you can't make friends with everybody, but because they're group members, then they have a lot of stuff in common. So she figured, well, we have stuff in common. It's not like I'm just friending somebody out of the blue. They're part of the group. So she's friending these people. Once they're a friend, she's able to email them and send them a personal message. So she writes a personal message. Hey, I loved your website. I visited the other day. I want to just simply give you a link to an event, a Facebook event I'm having. So there you go. And she promotes the product and service from the event. So she also says, while it's labor intensive doing it one by one, she's messaging 15 to 20 people a week like this, but it's so highly targeted that she's getting people into the events, her specific unique target market, at a very high conversion rate. So it's not about the numbers, it's about how many people matter in your, and if she gets one person to sign up, her group coaching class is $100 a month, times 12. So there's a potential $1,200 sale for each person out of these people. But you just can't throw that out there and then wait around for people to join it. Nobody's going to do that. You can't just build a website and because it's up and you see there's traffic coming to it and nothing's happening, you're like, well, this isn't working. You have to dig down. You have to what we call prospect mine. It's just like digging for diamonds like I do. You have to dig down, and dig down is labor intensive, but you find something very small of value. So one person in a very specific target niche funnel that you've created with a particular product could really funnel to tens of thousands of dollars depending on what you have set up. So that way you want to have this go for these target markets like that and make sure that that you're able to get them into your funnel. So one at a time is not bad at all. So also I like YouTube, and that's my favorite social media only because you really don't talk to anybody, but videos are dynamic. If you're not making videos, then this stuff it's not going to work. You really have to make these videos. I know Sheila's making videos. A lot of people are kind of resisting it, and we don't want to do that. You really want to put it out there. Again, I was focusing on ESL. I asked Richard a bunch of times, hey, let's shoot some videos in your classroom, but not just of him standing in class. I know he's got some videos, but kind of YouTube specific, where you can see this woman's looking into the camera. She's not even in a class. So the class is out here in the other world. Okay. And she's actually showing what her classes are like or her training is like. She's actually teaching classes online, but just like no live people. This is really a YouTube video. So I guess she's using it to promote some online classes. I didn't actually look at the funnel, but I would assume that's what she's doing. But look at the views on this. 1,300,000 people watched a video so they could learn. And this is an hour long. This is a whole class. So I guess this is one of her recorded classes. And she used it as a promotion. So not only did she sell a class, and I don't know how much money she made, selling the class, but she uploaded it to YouTube, and now it becomes a promotional tool. We've been through this a million times, but we're so resistive of video, but you have to really put it out there. That is a target market. I'm not watching an hour of this video. I know how to speak English. Okay. I'm not Richard's target market. There's 1 million people that are his target market. What could you do with that? How would you funnel that? Think about that for a minute. What would you do with the views? It kind of opens your mind up. That's a great social media tool. Here's one of my personal favorites. I can't believe I made money doing this. No one taught me how to do it. Tom didn't want to do it, and he did it for a while and then didn't do anything with it. And I just put ad after ad about copywriting and conversion and website help and just hundreds and hundreds of different keywords, which isn't niche, okay? So don't get crazy. Actually, if you niche the keywords on Craigslist, you'll do better. But I put multiple ads out on Craigslist, and people write me back and they call me and all sorts of stuff. And I can't believe Craigslist must just have tons of traffic. I don't know if you've used it, but another example, and this is just recent. Look at this. This is like yesterday or something. I did this screenshot. These are English classes. I don't know if Richard's advertised on Craigslist, but he should be doing it every day. And this would be for the physical school, because Craigslist is location sensitive. It's got you can pick different cities, but I post everywhere. I post in LA, I post in Toronto. I mean, I don't live in those places, but I do all my work online. So as he expands into his online classes, Craigslist becomes even more powerful. But it actually works for a great niche market because people search for it. Not only do you search in Craigslist, it actually comes up in Google searches very high. Here's online forums. And again, this is about English as a second language too. And look at all the topics and posts of this one. English as a second language schools. Does Richard, does he join as an admin, or does he have a profile on something like this? Or, these things, we want to dig deep. He's asked me a bunch of times, I'm not picking on him or anything, but he's asked me a bunch of times, I really don't know where to find, students. But I don't know if he's exhausted every angle. So I'm really glad that he brought this up, and it'll give each and every one of us, not just Richard, but ideas about where we can go. Every topic has a forum, and the forum is either good or bad. But if you find a good one, you can go in, create a profile. The profile has links back to your landing pages, so you can list build. And of course, you answer questions, or you can ask questions, or you can just add to the group. It's very lively. I do it with the jewelry all the time, So I do Warrior Forum too, because that's about internet marketing. So I picked up a couple of different clients doing that. Online forums are great. These are all online models. Also, think about it for a minute. Again, we talked about online and print magazines. Well, people are buying those for reasons. They're trade magazines. They're just in general, or cultural magazines. In Richard's case, there's all sorts of Spanish-based print and online magazines that are very targeted to, say, Southern California. They're even just regional magazines. Think about writing an article for that, or even just buying ad space. That kind of stuff. Magazines are very receptive. People actually sit down. If they're going to subscribe to it and bother spending the money, they typically sit down and read it. And ads are very powerful. Nothing's changed. There's a business magazine that goes out to about 35,000 business people in Virginia Beach and Norfolk. And I used to just put classified ads in it, and it worked. I picked up a few people because every business person has a website, and every website's got a problem with it that I generally know how to fix. Okay. And usually it's, I don't have any traffic, and the traffic is there. It's not doing anything. Okay. Well, there you go. Well, every business has a website that isn't doing as well as it should. Everyone believes their website can do better. So, I placed ads in that business magazine, but not only that, I wrote an editorial. So I was featured, because I called up the publisher and I said, hey, why don't I just write a really high content thing about increasing your website business with higher search results? And he was like, sounds good. I had the credentials. What the hell, right? I wrote this thing, And of course, there's nothing like at the bottom. It was like my website and like my phone number, and that was it. You know what I mean? Hardly anything. That's all I got out of it. Didn't get paid for it. Nothing. Oh, but I made money. Okay, because the phone rang off the hook. Because they just want me to help them. I mean, I obviously know what I'm talking about. And the article is very specific to that. That's a target niche service to a very targeted group of people. Okay. In fact, that's even wider than usual. Your niche will have, in a specific niche based in periodical, even more power to get people to call you. Okay. So always look around for opportunities, especially just writing for free. I mean, you should be writing all the time, but not on your own website because there's nobody going over there. Okay. You got to write to where your target market is hanging out. Okay. Let's look at Meetup.com. I hope I didn't skip anything. Okay, Meetup. Now, Meetup it looks like it's online, but it's not. It's online is where you find everything and where you set up your registrations and where you advertise all the meetings and speaking engagements. Very online friendly. But Meetup it's actually just online Meetup groups, but really it's a group of people that all have a common topic in mind or a common problem that your niche should be solving. And you get to go and meet all these people. The first meetup group I joined was some kind of internet business. I don't even remember what it was. And when they found out I worked for Tom, because we were in town, they'd heard of Tom and they were like, well, we've been asking Tom to speak at Meetup. Tom's not going to speak at Meetup. Okay. And so 3 meetup groups that kind of networked together, all in Virginia Beach, got together and said, well, Colin will speak. He works for Tom, and he's going to talk about SEO and the keywords that drive tons of traffic to your website or some fancy thing like that I made up. And so they advertised it throughout the meetups. Each group had about, I don't know, 110 people in it or something. So it went out to like 400 people or something like that. And I booked I spoke for free, and I was in this conference room at some car dealership, which was really huge and had about 60 to 80 seats, and the place was standing room only. And I'd been a member of the group for about a week. Okay. So I spoke for like an hour, and then I spent a whole nother hour up there just shaking hands, collecting business cards, and people were hiring me right on the spot, right there at the meeting. And it was great. And I hadn't even been a member. I was only a member of one of the 3 groups for a week, and don't even know anybody else in the other groups, hadn't heard of me, but it spreads like wildfire. You have an opportunity not just go to Meetup and shake hands and meet people and network and sign people up and take your business cards and all this stuff, but you can present. So Michelle, she's not a member. She's not going to hear this recording. So I'll tell you, she went to a meetup group called the Springfield. This is Springfield, Massachusetts now. Springfield Speakers and Business Group or something like that. Had like 200 people at it. And she didn't even get to speak. She just went around shaking her pretty little hand on everybody, and all the guys loved it. And she hired one client to work on his business, and she charged him $18,000. And he paid it. And not only that, 3 months or 4 months later, he paid it again, another $18,000 to keep working with her. And just because she met him at a meetup group, I think the 3rd time she went. She doesn't even live in Springfield, so it's like an hour and a half drive for her. That's how important meetup groups are to her. She's an offline genius, and I've learned a lot from her. I have even gone as far, this is funny, posting notices on community centers and libraries and the grocery store and at the laundromat and at all the universities and all this stuff. Where do your people shop? Where do they go to learn? Where do they go to leisure? Where kind of community centers do people hang out? Now, this is a little bit more wider brush for kind of more consumer product, but some of us had that kind of stuff. I'm working with clients now that kind of were focusing on a wide brush, but then we're talking about a more specific niche and getting excited about it, but it's still consumer level. It's just a particular group of consumers. But these consumers still shop. They go to the swimming pool. They're all part of libraries and groups and community centers. And I get a lot of business from universities, believe it or not. I'm not even sure why. Sometimes they want to learn SEO as part of their portfolio because they're web designing, but at the same time, they got web design, but they don't understand search positioning. So they want to learn how to do that. And I can help them train on something like that. And this is funny. I've even placed business cards, went through Barnes and Noble and opened up each book in the website building and SEO section and stuck my business card in between the pages. So that when somebody bought it, they took it home and they're like flipping through it and then my business card falls out. I mean, how niche is that, right? I know it's silly, but there's a lot of creative stuff that not that you should be doing, but you have to do. And you have to try a lot of different things and have fun with it and see which ones work for you. This is the big one. And I actually had to learn to do this because it's not easy getting referrals from past clients and customers. Now, sometimes I had to learn how to ask for referrals, and I didn't do it for a long time, and I kind of missed a lot of opportunities, but this is where most of my people come from, most of my clients. About 60 to 70% of the clients out of 2015 were referred by past clients, believe it or not, because I haven't spent as much time since I've just been doing online classes and been doing all my jewelry and everything. I haven't really gone out and done in earnest a lot of the stuff I'm showing you here. Okay. I'm talking about, I did this like 3 or 4 years ago when I first started my business and got out of Tom's, and I was desperate for clients. They didn't just come over with me from Antion and Associates. They didn't come over. So I was on my own and I was living at Vicky's and I needed clients, and I tried every one of these things. I spent 8 to 12 hours a day doing this stuff, and I built a real business. Okay. And it really worked. But it was work, so now I basically just live off the referrals, but I've learned how to ask for them. And I went to this class. This guy taught a class. His name's Arnell, and he was really cool. And the first class we went in there was how to get referrals from your business. So we got there, we introduced each other. First 10 minutes of this, month-long class. He said, pick up your phone. So we all picked up our phone. And he said, dial an old client right now. And we were looking at each other like, okay. He said, you got an old client's number, a past client's number? I said, yeah. And he said, call him up and say, I want to ask you a favor. We've had a great relationship and I'm just seeing how you're doing, but I want to ask you a favor. Can you recommend someone? You have any colleague or anybody you can recommend someone to me that you use and benefit from my services? And the way he stated it with the can I ask you a favor made the wall of resistance drop, and people were receptive and going, well, sure. I mean, we had a nice relationship. I was happy with the services. Now he wants a favor. That's kind of complimentary. It's kind of flattering, that he's asking for me. So it doesn't look like you're begging. You're just saying, if you have people that could benefit, send them my way. When you do that, a lot of people, they're not expecting commissions or anything, especially past clients. They don't even know about commissions and stuff. That's just kind of like a coach to coach thing, B2B. So I went into the hallway and I called up a friend of mine, Aline Breedlove Davis. A lot of you know her. And I did the exact same thing. I used the exact script Arnell told me to say to her. And she just perked right up. I could see her sparkle in her eye. And she said, oh, yeah, there's a couple people I was just talking about, but I forgot all about it. I'll call them up tomorrow and remind them. And I was like, thank you. And one of those people next day hired me. There you go. It was a 50% conversion. I mean, it was working with Aline, calling her up. It was a 100% conversion. And that could have gone on and on and on and on. And why RNL did that so early in the class was to set the standard of this stuff really works before we get too crazy into the class. Can people still hear me out there? I had a little notice pop up saying my audio is degrading. I don't know what the hell that means, but if you can still hear me, you can put something in the chat box for me just to make sure I'm not talking to myself. I don't mind that. But so learning to ask for referrals is just a bigger part of the picture than just getting referrals at all. And of course, people will send them to you if you really want, but you have to remind people to do it. So you want to make sure that you do that. And you want to do it all the time. You want to be consistent, and you want to do it constantly. And I ask every client for a referral before the job is even done. I already plant that seed in their head. Okay. Let me check something real here. So I make sure that this is a major, major part. And this is when I start now. Hold on. Okay. I'm getting notices that the audio is going in and out. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what's going on here. Should be okay. Just let me know. And the recording will be fine if we get lost here, but I appreciate you hanging in there. We're almost done anyway. So every customer has a colleague. Every customer has a friend or a family member. And if the audio is going in and out, remember, the recording will be fine. It doesn't do that on the recording, so you can check it out. Thanks for hanging in there. So there's all these different ways of getting the referral, and you just want to make sure that's always a part of your business, constantly. You always want to do that. Referral always. It works for me more than anything else this year. So you're able to transition into just referrals, really, and that's great. You can do these free or even charge a little bit for these informational seminars. Okay. And you might have heard about them. They're called lunch and learns. And Michelle does a bunch of these, and she teaches her clients how to do them. So I've done these too, where I get pizza and meet at the library, and I talk about website stuff and just do a free seminar, just information content. And it's been very successful because right after that, of course, they want to hire you. And I held them at the library. I've done it at small community colleges and things like this. There's many opportunities to do what's called a lunch and learn. And those are great. And they work really well. You don't have to sell. In fact, you never go in and sell. All you do is just collect people's information, phone numbers, ask them if it's appropriate to collect their information. And they come up at the end. They come up at the end and they call you. You hand out your business card and everything. So you never have to sell. So it's not like one of these pitch fests like you see at all the seminars out there. And you don't give away, I mentioned business card, but you don't want to give away just a business card. Okay, that's kind of weak. You want to make sure if you're going to do a lunch and learn or any kind of informational seminar or anything where you have a small group of people of your target market that want to learn something like that, you want to give them away what are called takeaway items. And takeaway items are things that they can learn and use and implement and look over numerous times. They can be pamphlets. They can be printed ebooks, 5 or 6 page, something like a handout. You see a handout at these seminars all the time. Well, those are meant not only for you to follow along with, but to reference after the fact when you get home. But you'll always notice the smart marketers put all this contact information that constantly is blasting out to them. I know what I'm talking about, and I'm here to help you. Okay, and that's all in very specifically designed what we call takeaway items. In fact, Tom used to actually get these small little cheap flash drives. He got them for like $3 a pop or something, from some import shop or whatever. And he would upload a couple of ebooks and like a CD, one of his speeches or something like that, into the flash drive and give it to them. And they put it in their computer, and then they would get all this stuff. And they didn't have to download it, and they didn't have to come to the website or any of that stuff. So this was takeaway items, and it was really cool. But they're promotional in nature, okay? So let's take a look at what I mean by a takeaway item. Well, before I do that, let's get to partnerships. Okay, partnership, and this is very interesting. And a lot of people don't think it works. And a lot of people give me flack about it and are very resistant, but it really works. I actually go. I've asked other experts, I called them up on the phone, in my field, of course, if they have any clients that could use my services, because I realized that a lot of them are overloaded and they were turning away business. And if you don't believe that, it's more common than you think. And calling those people and asking to throw you bones, there's nothing wrong with that, and it actually works. Another thing is that you can create a niche. Now, this isn't This is more like referrals or like a client dump, and it's not a joint venture. Okay. I just want to say what that is. A joint venture is something where you actually specifically create a presentation, a product together with another person. You promote it together. You split the profits. It's created ahead of time, with intent. When I just call somebody like Jeff Herring up, let's say I'll call him up and I'll go, Jeff, man, I'm, I'll try to think of a complementary or niche service that his people desperately need that he isn't teaching or doesn't have time to teach, or it's been what I call a back burner idea for him that I think I heard him talking about, but he never really got around to doing it because he was too swamped. And I just go, hey, if you want to send out a newsletter or just, contact a few people, 5 or 6 of them and throw them my way, I can help him implement the specific idea that he's leaving on the table. No guru or whatever of Jeff's stature wants people in his camp not getting all the education and success that they can. And him referring some clients to me makes him look like the hero and the good guy anyway, to him and to me and the clients. So all that really works. And there's kind of an unspoken thing that's okay to do, going to an expert and asking them if you haven't tried it, but it works. A lot of people don't believe it does. This year, Tom sends me people all the time. This year he sent me 3 or 4 people that paid a bunch of money. And they were people who contacted him not to join the mentor program, but they were kind of asking him to do something else for him, like copywriting. They said, hey, Tom, can you write a sales letter for me? And he's like, well, no, I don't have time to write a sales letter because I have my mentor program. But Colin will write you a sales letter because I trained him personally on how to write it. So why don't you call him? Now, that person hired me and I wrote the sales letter. Tom didn't ask for a commission because it was just a handoff, as we call it. Okay. And that's something that you want to think about. And there's always people that are more successful than you that are willing to throw you bones, is what I call it. And it really works. So Tom sent me other people that was kind of funny. Don't tell anybody this, but some of them he just didn't really want to work with because he just found them, unpalatable for whatever reason. So maybe they were difficult or they didn't understand or whatever. And he kind of threw them at me to see if like a challenge to see if I could do it. So, and that worked. So, sometimes gurus have people they don't really want to work with, and maybe you're up to the challenge. Okay. So, that's fun. All right. But remember, these aren't JVs. These are just referrals. And so you would not owe them any type of commission. Now, of course, you can send favors back and, you definitely want to, it's a favor and you want to do the favor back, but that'll raise its head at another time, So however you work, that's fine. But that's really huge. That's kind of a hidden way, especially for us here, like Joyce, for instance, she's needing to reach out into the medical community for her new product and her new service. And there are other people doing similar things that she may be able to contact, not strictly for joint ventures, but it's kind of some like a back scratching thing. So you might want to keep that in mind. Again, it's searching in particular for your niche. Okay. But here's the thing, out of all the stuff, out of everything that I just went over, there's a big issue here. There's a big problem with all of it. Okay, we talked about your product and your service being niche. Okay, having something very narrow and very palatable and resonates with a very particular group of people. And now we're going to prospect mine. We've gone to all these places. Theoretically, we're going to go to all these places and we're going to look for customers and we're going to tap them. Now what? Okay. That's only 2/3 of the picture here. Your website, sending them to a website or whatever you think you were going to do when you make contact with these people is probably wrong and it's not enough. Before you do any of this, and this is critical, before you do any of this or waste any of your time, because it's very labor intensive, it's critical that you have the proper squeeze page or landing page or opt-in page or some kind of way to capture the very specific essence of what you're teaching, and so that the person adds the right and proper contact information for you to close the sale. That's different depending on what you're doing. There isn't just one size fits all on that. So an opt-in might be enough. A landing page might be enough. Giving them a manifesto to download might be enough. Getting their phone number so that you call them numerous times if you have to, that may be what works best. So what works best has to be decided ahead of time. Do not send just people to a website or your typical MO. Here's my business card, or go visit the website. You've just wasted the entire process. This is a funnel in its own right, okay? And there's no conversion if you don't set up the landing page, or how are you going to capture the contact information properly. Some of you have it down. Sometimes getting a few business cards with some phone numbers on it from people is enough. And maybe you pick up the phone and call them. That's great. But generally, we don't do that stuff. And I know because I know my community. And there's always some kind of hole in the funnel, and this is usually the big one. So we got to create that squeeze page. Handing out a business card and expecting people to actually pick up the phone and call you is not going to happen. It never happens, and they're not going to do it. They'll throw it in the garbage. They'll forget all about it. It doesn't work. So while you're speaking and writing and putting up all this stuff, people need to be directed somewhere where you right into the fold of your heart. Okay. I mean, putting you right in the place. It's just like catching a long football pass. You got to tuck that thing in and make sure you don't drop that ball. And now you take it right in the end zone. So sending them to a website is just confusing. And I know that most people, that's what we do. We don't want to do that. You have to give every prospect what I just talked a minute ago about a takeaway. There needs to be some sort of, and this can be physical, it can be when you meet them physically, online, offline, everything. There's always a takeaway of some sort. It can be a file of any sort. It doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong about that. It could be ebook, it can be PDF files, it can be video stream, it can be audio, MP3 downloadables, it can be a manifesto, it can be educational tools, it can be software, it can be apps, it can be anything that they can use over and over and over to help move forward in their business. And what you're doing is you're implementing a secret technique of implementation, like results in advance. So you've given them something that helps them move forward before they hire you, which leads them to hire you anyway. All these things, especially online or one of these landing pages, is going to trigger autoresponders and add them into your list. Okay, so online it'll do that. Offline, you can add them in anyway. So if you got a good program like GetResponse, you're able to just manually add business cards and things to your list. And a lot of email programs won't let you do that. You can add it to the list, but you won't be able to send them any newsletters because they'll be called with unqualified leads. And you don't want that. You want something like GetResponse. There's my affiliate pitch right there. These takeaways have useful info that they can watch, read, listen to, download, interact. And that gives the results in advance that you're looking for. And you want to place them in their hands. You want to make sure that they're actually getting these things. And when you do that, when you send them to a landing page, there's one choice. Sign up, get the goodies that can help. Sending them to the website won't do that. It's too confusing. Also, if you hand them some kind of file, a flash drive, a PDF, a printout, handout, whatever that they can use and reference if you're talking to them offline, like in a meetup group or a seminar or whatever, then they can use that, and it's full of promotional materials. And you can also try to get their contact information and add them to your list. You can put extra freebies in the handout, the printed handout, that they can click on the link or just type it in their computer, go to your website, goes to the landing page, they get an extra freebie, and now they're on your list. Your business card is not going to do that. You hand out business cards, just throw those things away. They don't do anything, okay? It's the worst thing in the world. So don't get business cards going on and hand them out and then just sit and wait for the phone to ring. It's terrible. You need to contact them. You need to call them. And Michelle is the one also that taught me how to call people. And she's literally gotten contact information from somebody at one of the meetup groups. And she just knew that they were the right, perfect prospect for her, that she could really, land this deal. And she called them as many as 7 times before they actually either answered the phone or said yes or whatever. So she's like got stamina. I mean, I hate calling. I can't do it. I've called people, but it's just not for me. But you're going to have to do it if that's part of the aspect. So that being said, we have a Q&A right now, and we can do the Q&A if you want. If you have any questions, pop them in. Or obviously, a lot of people didn't show up tonight, so because I got a lot of people emailing me saying they had some prior obligations, but of course they're going to watch the recording. Send me any of the questions that you have, videopowerlive.com. But next Tuesday, September 22nd, part 3, the most important part of this entire niche series, making and creating a prospect pulling and content delivering landing page. Because if you create the perfect idea and find the perfect group of people to sell it to, and then you find out where all these people are at, and they're all hiding out, and then you finally get your foot in the door, or you find a forum or something where everyone's like hailing you and you're the expert and blah, blah, blah. If you don't have a landing page or some way to capture them, there's no conversion whatsoever. You're not going to make a dime. You're back at ground zero, at first base here. It's without being able to land, collect, and nurture this information, then you really can't make any money. Besides just taking someone's business card and cold calling them over and over until they finally say yes, which works. That's not going to work for all of us. And for most of us here, we want to do something online that's a little bit more automated. So I'm going to show you, and you wouldn't believe, I told people, there's a client I'm working with right now. I'm ready to pull my hair out. I don't want to mention her name, but she's a genius, okay? A genius at what she does. She could change the world if people would just listen to her. She's rocked my world. But she's putting together a project, a very expensive project, and all she wants is a squeeze page to collect people, give away some information so that she can, send out notices for webinars and teleclasses, get them in, your typical funnel. I taught her how to do it. So I said, write down what you want to say on this squeeze page that will say, I said, focus on financial. She wants to charge like $10,000 for this program. So I said, well, people are going to need to know they're going to make their investment back and make money. So focus on the investment. And then B, tell them, identify what problem they're having and how you're really going to be able to fix it and make their business better. So she wrote me this landing page copy that was just absolutely horrible. It was just stuff about soul transformation and woo-woo stuff, and I didn't even understand it. And I was like, that in her mind, that soul regeneration or whatever was actually the benefit that she believes will happen to those people. But you can't look at it the way you do. You have to look at it the way they do. What's most important? You have to dumb it down a little bit. You have to change the way you identify benefits and make sure that you're talking to the target market in the right way. And this is very critical that we don't understand what is a benefit and what is fluff. Okay. And I use that word a lot, but there are benefits and fluff. And most people I work with do not understand the difference between them. The problem is that, and I was talking to a client today about this. The problem is that we're too smart. And we kind of know the whole idea of what we're trying to sell and the end result of what it can do for them. That's great. But your prospect does not know that. You have to focus in on something very specific, like making money, like growing a business. You have to leave the fluff and the woo-woo stuff for later. You can teach that way once you get them once they hire you or join your classes, but you can't throw that kind of stuff up in your front end marketing. You can teach in whatever back end stuff you want. I mean, it doesn't matter at that point, but they need to understand a few basic concepts of what real benefits are. And that's what I'm going to talk about next week. Okay. And I'm going to really get down and dirty on it. And you don't want to miss it because you really have to understand this. Here's the whole point, and I'll wrap it up. Here's the whole point about a niche. It's you have a perfect service for a very, very specific problem to a very, very special group of people. Just writing some kind of fluffy landing page crap is not going to work. It's going to be a disservice to you. You're not going to make any money, and you're not going to help people. If you have identified something just very beautiful and just great, elegant, as I call it, an elegant idea that can really, really, really help people, you have to understand the basic marketing of landing pages. Otherwise, you're going to blow it. And that's a shame. And we don't want to do that. So next Tuesday, it's going to be the big one. We'll talk about, there might be part 4 to this if I can figure out what else about niche marketing. I'm sure there's something else I'm not thinking about. But anyway, if you have any questions, pop them in. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and get going here. They're trying to kick me out of the school. It's getting kind of weird over here. It's really packed full of like kids. So I want to make sure that you have all your questions answered. So recording will be going out tomorrow, and you can check that out. And Joyce, you can give me a call tomorrow if you want. I'll give you my phone number. I'll set up an appointment with you, and we can chit chat a little bit about your new stuff. And I look forward to talking to you about that. And all right, join us next week. I'll probably be back here again if I can find a quieter place. Actually, it's pretty good. I actually found one room in this whole giant university didn't have a kid in it, or some kind of party, or a band playing, or pool tables, and I mean, it's crazy, funny. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here and get going. Send me your questions in the email, and we'll talk real soon. Have a good night.